Alright, let's shoot some bullets. The first thing I'm going to do is create a new scene for my bullet, because I'm going to want to create heaps of copies of this bullet. And it's not just going to be a node, it's going to be an area 3D, because I want to check if I intersect with things when I shoot them. I'm going to rename this area 3D to bullet, and save my scene as bullet.tscene. And now I'm going to add my mesh and my collision shape to the area 3D. And there's all sorts of cool projectiles you might want to have. I'm going to keep mine pretty basic and make them a sphere. And I don't probably want a meter by meter sphere, so I'll turn that right down to 0.1. A small bullet there. That's for my hitbox. I'm going to do the same for the mesh. Sphere mesh. And the mesh looks a bit odd. When I change the radius, it only changes it in 2 directions, so I also need to change the height. And the height's going to be double whatever I set the radius to. That'll get me a nice circle. For my bullet material, I think I'll choose a kind of a purpley colour. But you can get pretty creative with the bullets, don't have to make them look the same as mine. I'm also going to try to make them look a bit metallic. Now if I drag the metallic slider, you'll see not much is actually changing, because most of the time metal is also pretty shiny, so I need to drag down the roughness slider. If I drag down the roughness slider, you'll notice my ball gets shinier. So having a bit of roughness is quite nice. Removing some roughness is nice if you want a shiny ball. And it looks kind of plasticky unless I drag up the metallic slider. Now you can see the metallic slider actually does something. It turns it more metal. So that looks pretty nice as a bullet. But I might add one more effect to my material. Let's turn them into magic bullets by giving them an emission. I'm going to have a kind of a bright blue, full, high energy emission coming off my bullets. You don't have to have magic bullets, you can make your bullets look however you like, but I quite like that bullet. So I'm going to save my bullet scene, and now we're going to add a script to make the bullets move. If you've added bullets in your 2D game, then this script is going to look really familiar to you. I'm going to click on bullet, add a script of bullet.gd, and I won't need the ready function, but I will need a speed variable and a direction variable. These look almost the same as they do in 2D, except in 2D your speed was like 200, because in 2D we're dealing in pixels per second, so 200's an okay number, but in 3D we're dealing in meters per second, so 200 meters per second, the bullet would be going so fast you probably wouldn't even see it happen. I've changed this down to 10 for 3D, for 10 meters per second for my bullet. And the direction has changed slightly. In 2D it was a vector 2, x and y, and in 3D it's going to be a vector 3, x, y and z, because we've got 3 axes for our bullet's direction. Then inside the process function the code looks exactly the same. I'm going to add to my position, and it's going to be direction times speed times delta. And then I'll have some bullets that move in some direction, which I haven't really set yet, times by 10 meters per second. Those are going to be my bullets. The only thing left to do now is instantiate a copy of the bullet when I click the middle mouse button. So for that, I'm going to go to my player script. I'm going to get a reference to my bullet scene so that I can instantiate a copy of it. Bullet scene, I'm going to preload it. Resources, bullet.tscn. And then I'm going to use this input function that we've used before to check that I've clicked on the middle mouse button. So this is going to be a long line, so I'm going to expand the screen a little bit. It's going to look pretty similar to the last event that I checked for. I'm going to make sure that the event is a mouse button event. Input event mouse button. Just like with the key, sometimes the event is because the button's been pressed, and sometimes it's because it's been released. So I'm going to make sure it's an event when the button's been pressed. And finally, I'm going to make sure that the button index is the left mouse button, so mouse button left. So that line there checks that I have clicked on the left mouse button, and now inside this block I'm going to instantiate a copy of my bullet. I'm going to write var bullet equals bullet scene dot instantiate, and then after setting the position and the direction, I'm going to add it to my scene exactly the same way I did with the explosion. I'm going to come down from the top of my tree, get the current scene, and add a child of bullet. So what position is going to be good for our bullet? We're going to start with a basic position and direction, and then we're going to tidy both of them up later. I'm going to start by using a global position that's the same as my player mesh. And part of the reason for that is just because I've already got a reference to the player mesh. So my bullet's position is going to be the same as my player mesh global position. And for now, I'm also going to use the direction that the player mesh is facing as the direction that I shoot my bullet. So I'm going to write bullet.direction. And I'm going to use, you might remember this back from when we made our player, the player mesh basis. That'll give me all the rotation and transform and scale of my player. But the basis itself could be all sorts of different directions. I'm going to use the Z direction because that's forwards and backwards, and forwards is kind of towards the camera. I want my bullet going away from the camera, so it's going to be negative player mesh basis.z. That's going to send the bullet traveling like the same direction that that player mesh is facing. Let's save this script. Doesn't need to be full screen anymore. And I'm going to play and see if we can get some bullets happening. Here we go. Every time I hit my left mouse button, I'm creating some bullets. It's looking pretty nice, but it is coming out of my player's feet. That's because that is my player mesh position at the moment. It's down at the player's feet. So that's the first thing we're going to fix. If I go to my player in the 3D tab, I'm going to create a new node on my player, and it's going to be the spot where all my bullets spawn from. So let's click on the player, create a 3D node, and I'm going to rename this to spawn point. I can stick this spawn point anywhere I like on my player. This might vary a bit based on what model you've got. This is where you want the bullet to come from. I've got magic bullets, let's just have it coming out of my player's chest. That's my spawn point. I'm going to save the player, go back to the player script, and get a reference to the spawn point. I'm going to drag in the spawn point, hold down Control, and I've got a reference to my spawn point. So now in my script for instantiating a bullet, and instead of setting the bullet's position to the player mesh global position, I'm going to set it to the spawn point global position. Now I can have it spawning from any chosen point on my player. Mine's kind of at the player's chest. It's looking pretty nice. I've got some cool firing bullets. I think that'll be a good stopping point for now.